Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
3 weeks down and 1 to go. Week 3 spoilers of ARH3, high stakes, coming at you. Hey Star Wars Destiny folks, welcome back. I hope everyone's week and weekend was great. We saw 3 spoilers this week again. First from Star Wars Destiny Brazil. Then our friends over at the Hyperloops, they popped back up for some cool spoilers, and appropriately so for them, I thought. That was pretty cool. And then last, we saw some spoilers from our friends down in Texas and from Diggity Destiny, the podcast. So let's just go right in order from what we saw. So first, Lightsaber Ignition. This is a neutral blue plot for 1. Action, reroll one of your blue dice. If it is showing melee damage, you may resolve it, increasing its value by 2. Set this plot aside. So do note that you will set the plot aside upon use of the action, regardless of whether or not you resolve the die. So I think that probably putting this one just into context currently, of what we see with United We Stand, I think that this one is probably looking at some sort of post-rotation or whatever that may look like. But it's a functional 1-cost plot. Now, do note you can use the 1-cost plot with only 1 blue character on your team, which does make it not necessarily fit the United We Stand slot. But I think by and large, it's okay, right? It's okay. I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, but it's a 1-point plot, right? So it's just a 1-point filler. What else are you really asking for? All right, next we have a 0-cost event move, Contentious Opportunity. This is neutral. Spot a blue character that had one of its character or upgrade dice removed during an opponent's last turn this round to roll that die into your pool. If that character has a card titled Makashi Mastery on it, you may resolve that die. So I think this card is pretty phenomenal, right? So spot a character. So if it's basically kind of old Vader's ability, right? For kind of Vader TTB's ability, right? So it does have to be a blue character, which does keep it a little limiting. But again, this is a 0-cost event. So I think what I really like about this one is that it specifically, it's kind of like a better return on like the big die character strategy, right? Like, cards like this, it's a functionally good card and it's 0, so I think it's going to find its place in a lot of decks. The question will really be, are there other spots, other cards that can take that spot or be better in that same spot? And let's say, so if you're running like a Bane, for example, I think you would run this. I think that, if you're running 15s, maybe you have to think about it, right? I think Leia probably don't run this just because it's a 0 and has other problems. So I think that's what I really like about this. I think it's a very functional card in the right type of deck. Again, it kind of swings towards that, big die character, the big strategy like Qui-Gon. You probably do run this with someone like a Qui-Gon or like a Bane. You're probably not running it with someone else. So I think this is a really, really interesting card. All right, moving on to kind of the big sexy of the SWD BR one is Makashi Mastery. So this is a 3-drop form, ability form, neutral of course, because I believe all the forms we've seen have been neutral. I'm actually pretty positive on that. So it's 1 melee, 2 shield, resource, special, blue character only, limit 1, pretty standard fare there. After you play this upgrade, you may remove a die showing melee damage, so kind of in the same vein as Makashi Training, which was from Spirit of Rebellion, I believe. Kind of an old one there, and not a form, by the way. But the special here is discard a card from your hand to resolve any die showing damage. So they did do the any die thing. Thank you very much, guys, for making that clear. So it's any die, meaning your or yours opponent. That's pretty good. right? Having that special. Now, again, you have to have the special sitting out there, so it's one of those things that, it's not catching them necessarily by surprise unless you're doing some sort of other action cheating or something like that. But it's a play around type thing. I think that having to discard a card from your hand to do it, I think a lot of what we would see would be like a special for a cost. I think that's kind of been the standard fare of this type of thing. This type of special would be like a special for a resource, and in this case, it's special for a card from hand. So I think it's relatively well checked there. I mean, it's a little more fluid being a card from your hand instead of having to have a resource on your table, but there's still a cost, meaning it's not completely free, right? So I think this is really good. This being a 3-drop form, I think is relevant. Of course, the question you always have to ask is it better than Neiman? I think it depends. It depends on the deck. So I think we're going to see a fair amount of Makashi Mastery. I don't know if it's relevant or not that Makashi Mastery doesn't have. Or I mean, actually, to be fair, we maybe they are going to have a Makashi training. I was actually just going to say, because we already seen it, they won't have a training. But actually, they could actually. So. Maybe that's coming our way, which would kind of undermine that argument. But like I'm saying, without having a training, I don't know how impactful that is. Most of the masteries we see, people don't play the training to get the mastery. So, overall, again, I like Xian training, but we don't see a lot of that. So, all right, moving on into plan ahead. So this is the least interesting of these three, but this one's actually I think this one's kind of fascinating. So it's a 0-cost red event neutral. Resolve up to 3 of your red dice, each showing a different symbol. So it's not quite what my head. Well, when I saw this, my head immediately went to Padme, right? Because what I've been missing with Padme is impulsive. I've been missing. Right, that was a Legacies card. It rotated out. It really hurt Padme when that went away. So when I saw this, I was like, oh man, can I use this to my advantage? And it's kind of odd, right? Because remember, you can use Padme's focus, and then her focus can resolve as a indirect. So that would allow you to resolve those two, but you wouldn't be able to then resolve another indirect, right? So this isn't completely functionally the same. The person who I think does like this actually is Dameron, right? One of the problems with Kes is that when you're playing, which is relevant because Cara Dune's a trooper, right? So that's why, Kes is actually starting to have that conversation again. Like there's a Kes advanced training theory deck out there. And one of the reasons I like this is one of the problems with Kes that we've always seen is, remember, Kes, when he does his action, it's not a power action, when he does his action, he can resolve any number of trooper dice in any order. But you can't resolve anything, like you can't, like if you have guns and you have upgrades out there, you can't resolve those, and that's always been a problem. So it's kind of cool that with plan ahead, you could, basically take his 2 focus and then do something else. I mean, but again, part of the problem there is they have to be right. So it's not like you can flip into a 2 and a +2 because you couldn't resolve those. It would have to be a 2 indirect and something else, right? So it's again, it's kind of the same Padme problem, but I think functionally it might help Kes a little more, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it turns out. We'll have to see how it works. All right, and this was why I said this was appropriate for the Hyperloopers. They were known, for, everybody and their mom ran droids, right? But I thought it was appropriate that the Hyperloops guys got the droids, and they are doozies. So this is C-3PO. So he's a Hero Gray support. So focus, discard, resource, special blank. Special, resolve up to 2 of your dice, increasing their values by 1 if you spend 1 resource or spot R2-D2. Very, very reminiscent of, obviously, his card. Obviously, it's not like an after you activate thing, but it's there. And remember, of course, very, very obvious at this point, because we actually had seen that with the old, red 1 support. You can have the supports in play to trigger this. Like if you're playing C-3PO the character, you can have R2-D2's support in play to proc him, or vice versa. And that's really what this is enabling here, because those have all rotated, right? The R2-D2 support, the C-3PO support, they all rotated out, right? So now we're bringing them back, and I think that's I think it's a really, again, functionally, I don't know how much of an impact it will have. I think it will have some impact, specifically like for Qui-Gon, C-3PO. And I mean, I'm already talking ahead. So let's go ahead and look at R2-D2. So R2-D2 is a one-drop support. He has melee, focus, disrupt, shield, resource, and special, so no blank on him. And then special is resolve another die of this, or another side of this die. But note that R2-D2 is red, which I do think it's relevant, right? It's an interesting choice. I feel it's an interesting choice that C-3PO is gray, but R2-D2 is red in terms of who you have to play it with, or who you would pair it with, because the gray obviously means you can go with anybody, but red goes with R2-D2. So it's almost like, yeah, you would run R2-D2 with red C-3PO, but you could run gray C-3PO even without blue R2-D2. I mean, I don't know that you necessarily want to do that. And again, I don't know if it's that big a deal, but I did find the fact that one was gray and one was red, I found that to be an interesting design distinction. So there's probably a reason for that, right? I would assume, but I'm not entirely sure what that would be yet. But I think it's pretty obvious I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's obvious to me that there's a reason for it. Like I said, I just don't know what it is. So the ability for these guys both to spot. So there's the quiet there. For example, there's a Qui-Gon C-3PO deck out there that if you had R2-D2 support on the table could potentially get pretty gross. Doing C-3POs after you activate. There's also, R2-D2 is 11, and he's got plenty of options out there, or even actually R2-D2 at 8 with Mando, 3-die Mando. Definitely options out there when you get 3PO on the table, or support 3PO and vice versa. So a lot of really cool options there. We'll have to see how that develops. I think that's going to be one of those like subtypes that's kind of like always there. In terms of the partners for those original droids. So it's kind of nice that specifically R2-D2, right? I was never a huge fan of 3PO just in terms of what he did, but I really like the R2-D2 being able to flip to the top side. But now being able to ring him and flip to any side is very, 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 very interesting. And do keep in mind with Mando that you can still Ewok ambush, right? So you could bring in R2, flip Mando to whatever side, and resolve. So definitely a real play thing. All right, moving into our last set of spoilers, came out of the guys at Diggity Destiny, and this one was kind of funny because they released the podcast, so like we were all like writing them down on paper, trying to like figure it out and get a good picture. But first we have that Strategic Strike. So it's a 1-drop hero event red. Remove any number of your dice to discard a support from play that costs equal to or less than the combined value of those dice. This should remind you very clearly of Surgical Strike, which was an Awakenings card. It's been around forever. That one was a little harder to proc, mainly because like one of the few people who could really consistently do it was Jyn. And quite frankly, she had really kind of better stuff overall, which was just discard the supports before they hit the table. So Surgical Strike did not see a ton of play. I think this one's interesting. If, supports, like it's going to still be hard to get rid of a Blizzard for sure. And I don't know you'd necessarily want to in that case, but you might need to. But again, Entourage has been seeing its fair share of play lately. All right, moving into, let's go ahead and do the character first. So this is Wedge Antilles' Flight Instructor. He is a 9/12 character leader pilot, hero, of course, red, but with 10 health. And he has a 1 gun, a 2 gun, a 2 gun for 1, a +1 gun, and a resource in a blank. Now, do note the one we're showing now, just with the way that dice, there's a format to dice. That's why I read it in a different order. They've said that they'll fix it before it comes out, but that blue +1 should actually be below the 2 for 1. That's just how the dice nomenclature works. So that +1 will be the 4 side. So let's hope it doesn't get built in. Let's hope before they fix the visual. Let's hope it doesn't get built in the TTS that way. But either way, this guy with piloting, after you activate a pilot, not him, after you activate a pilot, you may give that character shield equal to the number of character dice that just rolled a blank. It's kind of cool, very interesting. I think you have to assume that on most of your 2-die characters, at least, in a 3-round game, you're probably going to hit at least 1 shield on them. So, functionally just looking at this guy, 912 puts him, I mean, it's very interesting looking at him with how he fits in with like Luke and the single die. But, there's a whole conversation there about him having 4 damage sides being good for DDS, and I'm not trying to scope over that at all. But where I like this guy, at least out of the gate, is I think he looks pretty good with 2-die Mando, right? 2-die Mando being 18, it brings red to the table for the healing to try and keep Mando alive. You don't really have any other synergies there, but it gives you a lot, I think, of what you want for Mando. So that's probably where I'm going to actually try Wedge first. I don't know. We'll see where that ends up. But sure, there are certainly piloting type decks out there. Rebel Trader was actually on the Discord, and we had a good conversation. He was comparing Wedge to Hera. At that point, I think I think he had forgotten that Hera only has 9 health. But the conversation was still valid, kind of putting them both in context. We all know Hera's dice aren't great, but her ability to reset is always a big threat there. So I thought that was a really interesting kind of side conversation, putting Hera and Wedge kind of with each other. So last we move into Wedge's X-Wings. This is a 2-drop red hero support vehicle. 1 gun, 2 gun, 1 indirect, 2 indirect, shield, and a blank. After the supports become piloted by Wedge, you may give him 1 shield. After this die rolls a blank, place 1 damage on an opponent's support or upgrade, and then for a PA, remove this die to discard a support or upgrade with damage on it equal to or more than its cost. Now, you do have to remove the die to do that, but do keep in mind that you can get rid of a 0-drop, like Forbidden Lore or something like that, just right out of the gate, because it doesn't have to have damage on it, or it would have damage on it equals its cost, which is 0. So this thing, I think, looks really, really scary out of the gate. Do remember I'll put up DDS again, right, Destroy the Death Star. Do remember that you can only resolve range into Destroy the Death Star, but for the hardest part of Destroy the Death Star, which is the run, the 4 damage sides are valuable, because you just have to hit damage on both the pilot and the vehicle. So that's function. It's pretty clear to me that the reason that Wedge's X-Wing and then Wedge were given the 4 damage sides specifically was for the DDS play. Try and make it a little more functional. You guys may recall I actually played Luke Dak DDS in the opening weekend tournament for Redemption. I actually went for the Death Star a couple times. Like, I'd put a ton of damage into it, and then you just sit there and be like, reroll, pay 1, reroll, take a resource, reroll, right? So that's the hardest part. So I'm pretty confident that having, the option out there of 2 characters and 2 ships that have 4, I think really, really, really puts DDS in a much, much, much more playable situation. So we'll have to see where that goes. But like I said, my initial take with Wedge is try and put him with Mando and see where we go from there. So anyway, that is it for the week 3 spoilers. Again, a little bit before I shot this, we actually saw some additional spoilers come out from the Gandork, from some Artificery League streaming type stuff. So very exciting there, but those will be on week 4. So schedule for this week basically is I'm going to do a wrap up. It'll be Thursday this week. We'll do a week 4 wrap up, because Thursday night we expect to see the set. And then Friday day I'll do the traditional early meta decks and stuff like that, and kind of throw out some ideas we have. And then we have the opening weekend tournament. So this one wasn't as publicized early as normal, but I think that's because everybody was kind of expecting that we started to expect it. So again, just want to remind everybody, I'm putting up Lanza's note right now. We do have the opening weekend tournament. He noted today or a little bit before this that they've hit 50. So make sure to get signed up for that. It's free. It's always a good time. It's always well ran for having that many people, despite all the ttt.to drops, which will inevitably happen, right? Because that website is not ideal, but it's the best tool we didn't pay for. So anyway, folks, thank you very much to all the designers. Thank you guys for popping in. We'll see you back in a couple days, and go Commando.